Yeah. This is one of the required readings. This is C Leyendecker. I don't know a lot about him, but I'm pretty sure he influenced Norman Rockwell. I like Leyendecker a little more than Rockwell because he has this really cartoony flair, and he's what I really like him about is he's very geometric with even his silhouettes. They go sharp and boxy. I'll show you. But what I really like is when he starts cutting in his drapery, because he's the closest to delineating a simplified drapery that's honest. Like he's always carving in. See, remember our pencil is it's a weapon of adding mass and subtracting mass, right? It's not actually a line tool. You can see his divots, and so this will teach you how to wire fold so hard because they're really, really hard, right? But if you just take the right divot out, the right suggestion, instead of making this a hard line, if you would have made this as a hard line and a hard contour, that would have said that that's an actual wrinkle that overflows to the point where there would be a contour. Like, then so many cartoonists do that. It's why I always say a lot of cartoonists have pinched joints. It's because they're not thinking about the volume that goes into the thing half the time. You can tell this guy's midsection is getting pulled tighter here. You can see that an arm can fit in there. Leyendecker's really great in that he kind of simplifies it and pares it down to a mark or two. And it's very understandable, and I'll show you why, because he's also a master of silhouettes and a master of it's almost like a subtle cartooning. I'll find a few things here, but he's always you see how you can, if this guy was just a black shape, you would still see his still know what he's doing. Obviously if this was shape, this guy would need to move, but you could tell that this was two kids probably playing jacks. That is what you see. You see that shape before you see anything else, and that's what we'll call silhouette. A lot of times that just means you black it out in the inking version, but silhouette and character design. Well, he's very aware of shapes and how they move over other shapes, basically how they overlap and what the outside contours are and the inside contours as well. He's really hyper focused on it. So his rendering style is obviously super intimidating, right? But if you look at his drapery style, so even here, is that like Art Deco, whatever stuff going on there, where it's you can just see the shapes even when he flows, right? I mean, even when something's really flowing. We'll try to find the bigger illustrations, like here too. So like, it's because he works cartoony. You can see what is actually happening with the folds. He's thought them all out all the way. So many people would just fake this in comics, right? That Superman's cape's a great example, or Batman. I always hate it when, oh, the cape's just fucking forever. It's just wobbly off. But if you look at like All-Star Superman, Frank Quietly again, his cape looks just like when you go to the Catholic Church, you see the priest, little shawl thing hanging off of them. It takes up the exact same amount, and I'm sure he's referencing that because if you ever go, it kind of looks like it. But it's through everything. So here's a contour, right? So like he didn't divot in there, but that tells you that that's rolled onto itself. So every time you do that, you're saying that your sleeve got rolled onto itself, rolled onto itself, rolled onto yourself if you draw a straight line. So what you do is, whenever you think about those forms you are thinking about how since it is a shape, right? It's just a very organic shape. He almost draws them like paper, like crisp. And so you can see the bends. And then since it's so crisp and he's such an angled, look at that. I mean, that's a beautiful silhouette. You can tell everything. If that was all blacked out, you could see it too. You can see he's a cartoonist too, because he'll start, especially with the kids' faces that he does. So he does like a hyper-realistic rendering style, like Kent Williams or something like that. But obviously Norman Rockwell. But his cartooning is somewhere in between, like realism and pure cartooning, and it's really cool because this is like, I don't know, this is like, I give credit to Ryan Stegman for this. He is always looking up cool art books, and he referenced this one too. But the fact that these are so big, it kind of breaks them down into the first simple shape, and he's such a great illustrator that he can do that. So that's your required text. If you're worried about drapery, start looking how other comic book artists delineate it. But you don't have to buy Leyendecker. You can obviously look these up online. But this is a good book. I'll link to it. Like, clearly, remember the silhouette. So silhouette, if that was a shadow, you would know exactly what that kid was doing. Not that shadow, but this. And that's like really important. We haven't done a lesson on that, but this guy will be coming back a lot. Same thing too. He's always giving you the information on the outside, but you go on the inside and, oh, you know, what does a saggy kid's onesie look like? Well, he just whap. He gives it. He doesn't go in and do the 4,000 wrinkle thing like in comics. He just gives it that one oddest blop, and he pares it down to something simple. And that simple is something that we can reverse engineer, like I always like doing. We can figure out. Obviously, you know, if they got, you know, he'll reference it for real if he has. If, you know, I mean, I guarantee he references all these for real. The classic illustrator, but I don't know. You can see what the folds are doing with him, and then especially when he on his smaller ones here, where he's being extra cartoony. You know, hands aren't that big compared to faces, right? This looks like a really realistic thing, but really it's pure cartooning. And he's very, again, the silhouettes for him are amazing, but go in there and look at the wrinkles. He can go in there. That's a more complicated one, obviously. These football ones are more complicated, but yeah, it's because, I don't know, master, you know. And then also, if you just have to draw people in suits and shit, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of normal people in t-shirts, right? But you got some great reference. Can you just pick the one or two folds? And they're not, remember, you draw that as a line, it's a contour, so you gotta suggest digging it out. Or you keep it all, you know, you keep this outside honest, and then you gotta go in and model it with color if you're coloring your own work. But look, I mean, look at these shapes, man. That goes back to like design class when they're moving a black shape around, you know, and a white shape around and trying to make it interesting. He's doing that all the time at a master level. So he's good to look at. I'll link to this book. This was I don't know, I think a collection from, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I guess. So C Leyendecker, he's cool to look at. The end.